It's 11 minutes past 8. We've massive numbers listening to us on OTB Sports Radio and watching on YouTube as well, youtube.com/off the ball. If you want to leave a comment on the YouTube stream, by the way, you just need to hit subscribe and then you'll be allowed to do that. Alison Miller joins us now to give us her response to the Grand Slam. Alison, nervy enough game in the end. It was not the cakewalk or the procession that many people have been predicting, but ultimately they got the job done.
Yeah, and I think like this Ireland team have shown, whatever happens, they find a way, and it was nervy and it didn't go the way we'd hoped in terms of how they were playing, but they ultimately pulled away, and I think when they look back in years to come, they won't care about how they played. It's just the result. But yeah, a magnificent day for that team.
I hadn't actually heard the clip that we played just there of Sexton and Farrell at the press conference, where in his one of his greatest ever moments, so officially crowned top point scorer for now in the Six Nations, he's like looking back on a low point when he let himself down when he was getting subbed off against France. You're like, I mean, it's very impressive to be at your highest and go, I remember the bad times, and so that's why I enjoy this, and also that's part of that journey that he's been on as a captain to get to this point where he can lead that team through what they had to be led through at the weekend.
Yeah, I think it's probably the sign of an ultimate competitor that even though they've just achieved what everyone else would like to achieve, they still think of those small little things annoy them still, so that's what's driving him on all the time, and he wants to be the best. But unbelievable. Like, when you think he's 37, and any athlete that gets into their 30s will tell you about how you don't recover as quick, and he's still able to go out and perform at that level at his age and perform so well. Like, it's really amazing, and he is the ultimate competitor. Like, he's such a ferocious mindset. When he was coming off the pitch, I think he was saying how long was the injury going to take him, and what he's done and all the things he's done, and he's led this team to this Grand Slam success and hopefully further success. So yeah, like, unbelievable, really.
Yeah, it does look like Ross Byrne might get a bit of extra game time in the big games for Leinster over the next few short period of time. We don't know exactly how bad the groin injury is, but I think Rory O'Connor was asking him how it is, and he's like, it doesn't feel great at the moment. So obviously we'll wait and see what the scans are there, but that game against Ulster at the Aviva is coming up soon. I've no doubt it'll be a sellout. I've no doubt it'll be a massive celebration of Irish rugby too. Just in terms of players who are irreplaceable, at the start of this we would have had 5 or 6 who were like, oh, if Tyke Furlong is gone, we're going to be in trouble, and then that didn't prove to be the case at all. If Sexton misses any game time at any point, and suddenly Ross Byrne feels like he's a more than adequate replacement. There are 2 now who you'd be focused on, and I just wanted to get your opinion on if Keenan misses significant game time, or if Josh van der Fleer was to miss significant game time, Alison, would they be the only concerns that we'd have in terms of being kind of irreplaceable at this point?
That's a kind of difficult question. I think Jimmy O'Brien came on. He's obviously not at the level that Hugo Keenan is at yet, but I thought he did well, and I think what he's shown when he's played for Ireland, he's done well, and I think given enough game time and exposure, I think he could really do a job at 15. Obviously, Hugo Keenan is nailed on, and it was only really when I watched the game back the second time and just saw, his influence, his line breaks, his work rate in the backfield. He works so hard that he lets his wingers, they're able to defend high, and he just such work rate and to get to everything. And he's just, when he's gone, you notice him gone. But I think, there's guys there. I would probably look at Jimmy O'Brien coming in there to do a good job. And Van der Fleer, he's obviously, World Player of the Year. And I think he stated in a press conference recently that he's finding that he's less room. And that's always going to happen when you become like that. You're going to become a marked man, and hopefully it kind of puts space for other people then. But I thought Conan did really well when he came on the other day. I think it's the best I've seen Conan in a while. So, they are, you don't want to be losing those 2 players, but I think there's very good back row options there to do a job. I think I suppose, not sure what the word I'm looking for, but this Ireland team have shown that they have got depth and they've got resilience, and any bit of adversity that they can slot in and other guys can do a job. And we thought that about Tyke Furlong as well, and then Finlay Bealham came in and did an unbelievable job, so well that you'd nearly be wondering who you should start. Obviously Tyke Furlong is world class, but sometimes you get an injury like that and it gives someone else an opportunity to get in there. And that's so often the hardest thing, is to try and get in there. But once you're in, then you get your opportunity. So, yeah, like, you don't want to lose them, but I think we would be okay, unlike other years, for lads to come in and fill that void and to perform.
Yeah. Alan, what do you, Van der Fleer, as we say, World Player of the Year. So obviously you're not going to just slot somebody in who's also going to be as good as World Player of the Year. But what's our 7 depth chart at this stage?
That's a good question. I think right across the board, I think the level that these players have been at and how consistently good they've been, I think that's something that needs to be kind of watched, and their load and stuff needs to be managed a little bit, particularly in the build up to this. The emotional highs of all these big wins. I think who's in the depth chart after that? Well, if you look at the back rows who were picked, it was Ryan Baird, Jack Conan, Gavin Coombs, Caelan Doris, Peter O'Mahony and Cian Prendergast. They were the 6 that were picked in the back row, and Josh Van der Fleer, was 7.
Would Peter O'Mahony flight over to 7? He's done that before.
Yeah, I think then Scott Penny got called in, didn't he, for into the
training squad. Yeah,
training squad. John Hodnett has been brilliant for Munster. Will Connors obviously injured and has had a really tough season. He's a very, very good player as well. Of course, O'Mahony can go over there, but I would be of the opinion that if Josh Van der Fleer doesn't play, Nick Timoney as well. He was in New Zealand and also played in that game in November. There's a number of players there, of course, who could slot in there, but when you have a player so consistently good, at one stage in the midfield scrum in the second half on Saturday, Van der Fleer is just hounding and harassing the England attackers as the ball has been passed to the wing. He's so quick, his speed of movement.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe it is an area that we need to find under 7 that can really just slot straight in there. But Alison makes a great point about Finlay Bealham. Like, what a find he's been.
He had the full neck brace or leg brace on. Yeah. So I don't know. It was a knee injury.
It's a knee injury. It was medial ligaments, I think.
Okay.
It's not one that's going. It's
not
a
ACL.
No. Okay. So I don't think so. Anyway, with respect to him, and that'll be the key for Andy Farrell in these next few months. Can they find 1 or 2 more guys who can drive into this bench, or maybe even get a chance at a starting berth?
Yeah.
A lot of people were talking about Gavin Coombs a few weeks ago, how unlucky he was, and very unlucky, and actually brilliant that he is playing so consistently good now when he's gone back to play a few of those Munster games. But Jack Conan kind of reminded everyone at the level he's at, which is good. So that's a perfect scenario for Andy Farrell over the summer, that he has players chomping at the bit, they're ripping into each other in training.
Well, that is it, isn't it, Alison? That there's kind of the other side of them getting through the game and it being a bit nervy is that they now have that confidence boost, but everybody is desperate to make sure that they're in the extended pre-World Cup training squad, and then when you get there, you're trying to slit each other's throats to make sure that you're going to be on the plane to France. So that depth will produce some incredible performances from players at club level first, and then in those training sessions.
Yeah, 100%. And there's obviously no complacency going to set in. And yeah, you might see someone that we're not expecting. We don't know what the performances that they're going to have to do to try and get into that squad, and it's going to, as you said, produce massive competition, and that's only going to be a good thing for Andy Farrell and his coaches to be looking at these players, who's in form, who's coming in, then who'll be coming into camps, and it's a really, really good thing, and I think it will show I suppose the mentality of those guys to get themselves, if there's someone there that's not in the frame at the moment and they're good enough, their mentality to get in that frame and get in there and get into the squad, and because once you get in there, it's going to be hugely competitive. And I think we truly have depth now. I think we've talked about depth, but I think it's the depth there. But more importantly, I think there's the mindset. And I think the last World Cup, they did talk about, I suppose, the sports psychology point of it, that they weren't mentally, I suppose, tough enough. And I think this team now, where I love the way Andy Farrell approaches it, like, they know that perfection is not possible in sport, that mistakes are going to happen. It's the only thing you can really guarantee. Things are going to happen. And I think, hopefully, they're going to be much more able for the demands of a World Cup, the pressure, all the things that go with it, recovery between games, injuries. And I think the way they approached the game, where, Van der Fielder was thrown in, Keane Healy went into hooker, things like that could happen in a World Cup. But I think they're resolved now, and their, what would you call it, their mental resilience is in a really good place, coupled then with depth. I think is going to be really, really important.
Yeah, and a lot of competition at training sessions at Leinster and Munster for somebody to put their hand up.
Does he need to do a Brian Cody job on it?
Drop somebody.
So they've won the All-Ireland now, essentially. And
2 lads, off you go.
Two
Thanks
guys,
very much.
Maybe there might be 2 changes. There might be someone in the back 3. There might be, Ryan Baird now might keep Tadhg Byrne out. Who knows? You know what I mean? And you can imagine a Tadhg Byrne coming off the bench and Joe McCarthy coming back and Ian Henderson thinking, I'm not even in the 23 now, but I'm in the squad. So Ryan Baird is really he's a big winner here, I think, big time.
Well, because of the flexibility that he can play second row and back row, that gets him on the plane no matter what, right? But then trying to shoot from that into the team, that's the hard part, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But
you've got to decide to be one or the other.
He doesn't have to decide, I think, because Tadhg Byrne can play in the back row as well, so he can do that same role.
But Tadhg Byrne has become a second row. Like, there's no.
Yeah, but if Munster have John Klein and RG Snyman available, and that could happen, they might nudge him into the back row. You know what I mean? He can play in the back row, no problem. He was such a good footballer, same as Ryan Baird. I don't think you need to kind of pigeonhole one of them and say they're one of the other. Ryan Baird was outstanding the other day and physically making lots of tackles as well, which was brilliant. He's so quick around the field. But that's the thing for me now. Will Andy Farrell be kind of does he stay loyal to all these guys? And there's no matches per se. Obviously there's the World Cup warm-ups, there's a couple of those in August. By and large, I think obviously someone will have to do something special in that period of time, or even over the summer in training, to kind of go, I just fancy something about this guy. He can do something different, or he can bring some. The thing about Coombs for me and Ryan Baird is there's a certain X factor there that other people can't do. With Ryan Baird, it's just footwork, it's pace. You put him away in a wing, or he gets his hands through and someone offloads and he runs onto it. He's potentially going 1-on-1 with a full back and sidestepping him and going past him. Yeah. That's what he can do. Gavin Coombs, it's that exceptional power.
Well, maybe you bring them and they play those games that you're...
Yeah.
You can't afford to have.
But that's probably the intrigue now, that maybe, it'll be interesting to see. But look, he's got nearly everything right in the last 2 years, Andy Farrell. So it's
Alison,
certainly not telling him what to do.
Last one for you on this. Jack Crowley was the water boy, had the H2O bib on. Are they ringing Munster, do you think, and saying, here, put him in every minute of every game that he can, that is within our player management numbers, but he's your number 10 for the rest of the season?
I'm not sure. Possibly. Obviously, he's shown his potential. He's young. He hasn't had a huge game time. Alan probably know more than me from being involved at that level. What do you think, Alan? Would they be doing that, or?
I think you can write Joey Carberry off and go, well, send Jack Crowley back to Munster now, start him at 10 and Joey goes to full back, and thanks for the memories, Joey, because I think Joey Carberry, he's just too good a player to write him off. If something happened, Johnny Sexton, there's a little bit of panic and a shuffle here going, where do we go now? If Joey Carberry finds that bit of zip and that bit of ability that we know he has consistently, and I think he still will have a big part of this World Cup, certainly in the wider training group. So I don't think they'll do that.
Okay.
But I do think, when I'm talking about the X Factor players and the players who can bring something really kind of special or maybe add to this group, I still think Crowley is someone that, And Ross Byrne has been brilliant, and he's deserved to be back in the
Somebody
mix.
somewhere is going to be upset when
They are, yeah. And what I'm saying is now there's Crowley, there's Ross Byrne, there's Crowley. We didn't see him in the Six Nations, which was a pity. The way we would have wanted to.
Kept him involved. That was interesting. I thought.
Yeah. And he'll have learned a lot.
All right, we got to leave it there for now. Alison, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us. Alan, thank you very much as well.